trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind.
Yeah. Now, you got any of these articles on the slave trade with the so-called Jews and shit like that? All right, go ahead. Let's bring it on now.
Yeah, the first article I have is entitled "The Jews and Slavery." It says, in the 10th century, notes Jewish and Zionist author Julius Bruscus, the Jews, and that's talking about the so-called Jews. The Jews possessed salt mines near Nuremberg. They also traded in arms and exploited the treasuries of the churches. But their great speciality was their trade in slaves. The first Jews that Poles encountered, states that the Encyclopedia Judaica, must certainly have been traders, probably slave traders, of the type called in the 12th century Jewish sources Holokai Russia, travelers to Russia. In the 10th century, notes Israel Abrams, the Spanish Jews often owed their wealth to their trade in slaves. And that's talking about the so-called Jews, of which this guy Bourget, or the Bourget family, came out of. All right, they were Spanish so-called Jews. And they were heavily involved in the slave trade. All right, goes on to say, Jews, says Lewis Brown, traveled everywhere from England to India. Again, those are so-called Jews. From Bohemia to Egypt. Their commonest merchandise in those days, beginning with the 8th century, was slaves. On every high road and on every great river and sea, these Jewish traders were to be found with their gangs of shackled prisoners in convoy. And you know that was talking about our people, the real Jews. Such disturbing facts that impugn the Jewish myths of perpetual victimhood must of course be apologized away. Slave trading, says Brown, a Jewish scholar, seems irredeemably vile and hateful to us today, but we must remember here again the standards have changed. And in light of the customs of those times, the slave traffickers were actually doing almost a moral act. So again, that's this guy, Brown, trying to excuse slavery, or our slavery. Now I have, which the so-called Jews, that's something they would do. They're the devil, you know. Now I have this other article here. It says, did Lincoln really free the slaves? Because that's another myth that's perpetuated among our people, that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Well, I have a little something on that. I'll bring it out. It says, the president-elect's eyes twinkled, and he said he was reminded of a story. According to eyewitness Henry Villard, President-elect Abraham Lincoln told the story of the Kentucky Justice of Peace, whose first case was a criminal prosecution for the abuse of slaves. Unable to find any precedent, he exclaimed angrily, I will be damned if I don't feel almost sorry for being elected when the niggers is the first thing I have to attend to. So basically explaining this, that was Abraham Lincoln's sentiment when he first got into office, because the issue of slavery came up when Abraham Lincoln got into office. And he said, damn, I just got into office. That's the first thing I got to deal with is a bunch of niggers. Anyway, it says, this story, shocking as it may sound to Lincoln admirers, was in character. In other words, it was true. For the president-elect had never shown any sincere sympathy for blacks, and none of his cronies was surprised to hear him suggest that he shared the viewpoint of the reluctant and biased justice of the peace. As for the N-word, everybody knew that old Abe used it all the time, both in public and in private. So there's that myth destroyed that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. In other words, Abraham Lincoln loved to say the word nigger. And by the way, Abraham Lincoln, he was related to the Rothschilds, all right? So Abraham Lincoln, he was a so-called Jew. Reading on, it says, as for the Emancipation Proclamation, it was not a real Emancipation Proclamation at all, and did not liberate African American slaves. John F. Hume, the Missouri anti-slavery leader, who heard Lincoln speak in Alton and who looked him in the eye in the White House, said the proclamation did not, whatever it may have otherwise accomplished at the time it was issued, liberate a single slave. So again, there's another myth destroyed about the Emancipation Proclamation, all right? It did not free our people. It did not free any slaves. Sources favorable to Lincoln were even more empathetic. Lincoln crony Henry Clay Whitney said the proclamation was a mirage, and that Lincoln knew it was a mirage. Secretary of State William Henry Seward, the number 2 man in the administration, said the proclamation was an illusion in which we show our sympathy with the slaves by emancipating the slaves where we cannot reach them and holding them in bondage where we could set them free. And that's why when you go back to Deuteronomy 28, it says, and no man shall buy you, meaning no man shall save you. So the only one that can save us is Yahweh Shai. So you forget about this Lincoln freed the slaves crap.
You sound like an old chick talking to the, yeah, you talking good about Lincoln? Let me read you this here story. Now, you forget about all that old Lincoln was a good man. Lincoln was a damn devil, all right? Actually, I said Joel 3:3, go to Joel 3:1, all right?
Joel chapter 3, verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
That time is talking about now. Go ahead.
And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot.
I wonder if one of them guys going to come up and say that's wicked, just casting lots, you know? Yeah, well, Esau did it. I guess it's all right because Esau did it, right? Go ahead.
And they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for an harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine?
Well, that's talking about them Israelis, and I mean not Israelis, those Arab nations, because you got Jake, rooting for the Arab nations. Fuck the Arab nations, fuck the Iranians, the Pakistanis, and it's the hell with all of them, man. Go ahead.
Will ye render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head.
So the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, is going to get them sand niggas too. Go ahead.
Because you have taken my silver and my gold and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians. The
word Grecians right here, if you look it up in the Hebrew, the word there is Yawan. Double check it for me. The word should be Yawan. It's not Hellenistas or Hellenin. It's talking about the actual Greeks. Now, the people of Yawan go back to Japhet in Genesis the 10th chapter. But what happened was you had Edomites live all up there because who possessed those so-called European nations? It was the seed of Japhet. So how did Edomites get up in there? They went up there and pushed their way up in there, man. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, the Hebrew word there is Yawan. They have Yawanya. But yeah, right. Then down here, Yawan. They have Javan. From this province being more to the east, better known than the rest of Greece. Let me see what else it says. The sons of the Greeks. All right. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, so you can understand the real Greeks at that time were those were dark-skinned people. They were the sons that came out of Ham, Shem, and Japhet. They came out of Japhet. All right, the sons of Japhet. Okay, go ahead.
Real quick. Job 24:2. Some remove the landmarks; they violently take away flocks and feed thereof. Back in Joel chapter 3, verse 6. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that you may remove them far from their border.
Yeah, so we were removed far from our border. Our border was where? Over there in the Middle East. In the land of Israel, Jerusalem. You know? So we were removed far from our border. How far? All the way to the other side of the world, the Western Hemisphere. Go ahead.
It says, "Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither you have sold them, and will."
Now, where were we sold? How can you get it? How can you break this down any other way? Read that again.
Behold, I will raise them out of the place